Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic, a discussion between a professional film critic and lecturer and me, his wife of 20 years, who just likes to watch movies for fun. I'm your co-host, Julia.
This is Barry the Film Critic. Hello, everyone.
And tonight, we decided to watch The Truman Show from 1998.
30 years ago, the Omnicam Corporation created the ultimate reality-based television experience, The Truman Show. Beginning with the child's birth, they set out to document an entire human life, every single moment broadcast live to the world. They created his hometown of Seahaven, all of it completely enclosed within the dome of the Truman stage.
Cue the sun.
And even though The Truman Show has become an international phenomenon, Truman himself has never learned the true nature of the world around him.
It's television! Yes!
Despite some close calls. Every aspect of his life has been carefully scripted and meticulously crafted. But the one thing no one could predict was who Truman Burbank would grow up to be.
Good morning!
Morning!
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I hereby proclaim this planet Trumania of the Burbank Galaxy. Trumania, Trumania, I love and honor you.
Yeah, you a fan of this one?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this one.
Yeah, me too. Me too. This was one of those movies that, on the one hand, it was very of its time because it spoke to very much its star, really. Because Jim Carrey was basically living this life in a way. Because, it's a bit of a recap. Carrey was this Canadian who, by his own recollection, grew up in extreme poverty and became a stand-up comedian. Got some gigs, became kind of a rich little impressionist. He was really known for his impressions more than really just his stand-up comedy. He found a few breaks in some movies that nobody saw. He is in 2 Clint Eastwood movies. He's in the Deadpool and Pink Cadillac in these little supporting roles. He makes an impression, but clearly they didn't know what to do with him. Nobody did. And then after one failed sitcom and one failed supporting role after another, he gets on In Living Color. And he's the white guy on In Living Color. And, because of characters like Fire Marshal Bill, for example, he made a real impression because this stuff was really outrageous and crazy. And even the creator of the show, Keenan Ivory Wayans, was saying this guy is on fire. And when you know it, there was this script laying around that nobody wanted. Everybody passed on, and they said it was really bad. It was called Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. And Carrey read it and just saw it as an opportunity. And he and the director said, let's just throw the script out and let's just come up with stuff. So the story is that you watch the film and everyone, Sean Young, Courtney Cox, and Dan Marino, they're all basically trying to keep it together because Carrey is just going crazy in every single scene. And this movie, which, had no pretensions of success or anything, I mean, it came out in spring of 94 and it becomes this surprise blockbuster. And then that summer, just a few months later, The Mask opens up and it clears $100 million. And then that Christmas comes, Dumb and Dumber opens up and it clears $100 million. The next year, Batman Forever, he plays the Riddler. It's the biggest hit of the year. So he was just on top, unstoppable, and so popular and so beloved. And it wasn't an overnight success, but it felt that way because suddenly this guy is he's a household name. The Cable Guy happens in 1996, and even though it was not a successful hit and it had a very divisive reaction, it's like this huge cult movie now. Although I feel like the cult happened pretty quickly for that one. And then a year after The Cable Guy, Liar Liar, which is a monster hit and considered a classic comedy. And then this movie. So Carrey had this streak that was just unbroken at this point in time. And I forgot to mention the second Ace Ventura movie. I mean, he just it was so many hits. He was so beloved. So in a way, he was already living under a microscope. He was already this character. He was already somebody who everybody was watching. Everybody had an opinion about. Everybody was talking about. Everybody loved. And, on the one hand, that's fantastic.
Okay, but isn't that every celebrity?
Yes and no. when you're someone like Jim Carrey or Robin Williams or Eddie Murphy, it's this thing of like, I love this person because he makes me laugh, because he makes me feel good. Not every actor has that. And, because Carrey's beginnings were so unpretentious, there was this sense of like, he's from Canada, but he's clearly one of us. So, you see him in this film, and at times, his performance is stylized and very funny. At times he comes across as very sarcastic, but there's also something very vulnerable about him. And that's one of the things I love about the film. It is what it is, but it's also about Jim Carrey. It's also about this level of fame, because this is true. When they were reworking the script, as you know, the script was originally called The Malcolm Show, and Andrew Niccol, who later wrote Gattaca, wrote his original draft. It was darker. When Peter Weir was working on this movie, and they were talking about who could play Truman Burbank, everyone's first choice was, easy, Tom Cruise. How interesting would that have been? But it's a very similar kind of dynamic. And another actor like Denzel Washington, somebody who everybody would be compelled to watch, would love to watch, can't wait to watch. But then the question is like, well, what kind of life is that when you're living in a fishbowl? And of course, this movie takes it to the extreme of that.
Yes, the extreme of being watched 24/7. I mean, this is like before reality TV really took hold.
This is right before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this show, The Truman Show, is just broadcast 24 hours a day.
If you're curious, the first semblance of reality TV was in the 70s. It was a PBS show called An American Family. And from there, you had these little things pop up here and there. But really, most people would say it was, The Real World on MTV, although, again, American Family predates it by 2 decades. But the funny thing about The Truman Show, here's a movie about, this reality TV show that people can't stop watching. And then a year later, this guy named John Carpenter, not the filmmaker, he wins $1 million on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it's on the cover of USA Today. That was the start. It's like, why is this on the cover of USA Today? This guy he was on a game show and he won.
But wasn't it the first time anyone had won $1 million?
$1 million,
Yeah.
right? That's why it was a big deal. But also, it's TV. It's a television show. Why are we so obsessed? And not long after that, you had everything from Survivor to Big Brother, and then, of course, American Idol, where, American Idol has a real strong correlation with The Truman Show, because this idea of audience interaction. The audience is basically, their word of mouth is basically dictating as to what happens next. There's a bunch I'm forgetting, of course. I mean, everything from, then, we get to the celebrity shows, everything from the Osbournes to the Kardashians. This idea of reality TV, this concept that you're watching something that absolutely is true. The real Cancun was the sleazy version. The appeal is that you're watching something that's unscripted, but then of course, you hear stories of like, well, it was, Survivor, but if the camera were to just pan to the left just a little bit, you would see, the craft food services table, and you'd see, the makeup chair, and
No, I don't think they had craft soup.
I heard stories about that show. I don't know how many of them are true. But my point is, like, anything that calls itself quote unquote reality TV, I mean, I've always found that to be highly suspect. This idea that you're going out there with just cameras and a boom mic, and lighting, and there's no script. It's all, you just found footage. I don't know. I think that there's a lot about it that's contrived. But this is taking that to an extreme, because the thing I forget about this premise, because it's been a while since I've seen it, I forgot that it's a corporation that adopted a little boy, and they have been literally filming every waking moment of his life. So that's the appeal. You as an audience member are sharing this experience of watching this kid grow up. That's a good hook. I gotta admit, like, I forgot about that.
Yeah, but okay. So when we meet Truman, he's what, like 38 years old? There's people that have been watching him for 38 years.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, so let's get into it, because our opening scene is with Harris, who plays
Ed Harris,
who plays Christoph, who's the creator of The Truman Show, of the world, of everything. And he's talking about how people are just bored with fake actors, and we want reality. We want something real and genuine. And then you kind of see some of the other actors being interviewed. And they're like, nothing you see on the show is fake. It's merely controlled.
Yeah,
And
that's a very important detail that Noah Emmerich's character, Lewis?
Marlon.
Thank you. Why do I keep saying Lewis? It's Marlon. His name is Marlon. Yeah, Marlon.
Truman's best friend.
Yeah, it's a pre-credit sequence where we're getting some behind-the-scenes footage of how this thing works, and he's explaining, that it's not
fake. It's controlled.
Yeah, that's very big.
Yeah. So then we see day 10,909. It's like, oh my gosh.
And I'm sure there are viewers who'll be like, I was there every step of the way.
It's like, are people doing anything else with their lives, or are they just watching TV?
Well, as the movie shows us, there are occupations, there are jobs, there are lifestyles where you can just spend hours and hours at a time of just watching The Truman Show.
Yeah. Okay, so we see Truman. Our first shot is him like talking to himself in the bathroom mirror, just kind of doing like a little acting thing.
It's cool because, I mean, you think about it, that's how most of us act. You know, it's the idea of like, if you're going to pretend you're on a TV show, that's where you start. You know, whether you do it in the shower or, you know, when you're like alone, whatever, on an elevator or walking to school. But I think a lot of people, like, they start performing in front of a mirror, not thinking that there's anyone on the other side of the mirror watching you.
Right. And then his wife's like, Truman, it's time to go. So he's leaving for work, and, you know, we see him walk out the door, and like neighbors across the street, it's like the same people every day are talking to him and like saying the same things to him.
It's very sitcom corny. I mean, you really get a sense like they could easily have added a laugh track, you know, in between, because it's that kind of corny exaggeration. It's pause for, you know, effect. It's very stylized.
Right. And then a light falls from the sky, like this big...
A lighting fixture, yeah.
Yeah, and Truman's like, oh my gosh. And he goes out and he looks at it and he's like, what's happening? And he's on his way to work. And then on the radio it says like, oh, there was... you know, a plane flew overhead and dropped some of its payload or whatever.
Yes, a quick explanation.
And it's like everything in Truman's world has an explanation for why it's happening and what's happening to like keep him from ever questioning anything. He just goes, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. The other thing that we see is just like the constant advertisements and commercials for products and different things, everything from chicken to life insurance to houses. I mean, this show is constantly selling you something.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice commentary on this because some people have no problem with this. A friend of mine has always said, you know, who cares about product placements? I mean, in life, we use products. So why is it a big deal if a bunch of kids are sitting around drinking Coca-Cola? You know, what's the big deal? But this movie... it does comment on how it is abrasive, it is abrupt. It does, you know, it does jar you because, suddenly whatever it is, whatever product, whatever film, TV show you're watching, it does become a commercial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unless you're drinking, you know, nondescript beer or...
it just says soda.
Generic coffee, exactly. But I mean, if you're naming the products and talking about the products or, you know, you're carefully... thrusting the products right in the camera's face. Of course, it's becoming a commercial endeavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Truman, you know, he stops off and gets a magazine, you know, and he's a fashion magazine. He's like, it's for the wife, you know, and he's at work in his cubicle. We find out later that he's a life insurance salesman, and he's making calls to Fiji to try to find someone named Sylvia. So we don't know what that's about, but, and he's ripping, you know, pages out of the magazine. And then we see that Truman is really scared of the ocean, and the place that he lives is an island, technically surrounded by water.
Yes. And
because his coworker is like, hey, I got this lead for you. Like, you got to go to this other, like across the bay or whatever to go close this deal. And he's like, I can't do that. He's like, you have to do it, or, you know, you could get fired. So he can't get on the ferry. He like literally can't. And there's a funny, like, it's kind of funny. Like, he's trying to like walk to the ferry and there's like a sunken little boat next to him, and he just...
it's a carefully placed prop to
to
remind him of how fragile he is in water.
Yeah. So then we meet his friend Marlon, who
It's Noah Emmerich from
Yeah.
Beautiful Girls.
who I really like in
He's
this.
a wonderful actor, and he's great in this.
Yeah.
The idea of the character, it's not only is everything is double, because on the one hand, he is Marlon, Truman's best friend, but he's also an actor playing Marlon. So, and this is somebody who grew up with Truman on this show. So this is
Yeah,
someone.
they were kids together.
Yeah, so these are child actors, or rather, this is a child actor who grew up with this real kid who is unaware that he's on the Truman Show.
Right.
Yeah, which is pretty insane.
It is insane if you think about it. Like, how did young Marlon just like not tell Truman the truth?
And to think of like maybe a movie career that Marlon could have had, being one of the most watched kids in the world, to think all the things that he gave up to be on this ridiculous show, this lie, this acting gig that just doesn't go away. It's one thing to do a soap opera. It's another thing where, you're not feeding, it's not an actor exercise where you're feeding off the other actor. It's you're deceiving someone. You're conditioning them to continue with the show. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they go out and they hit golf balls, on this one spot on the road, and Truman's like, I'm thinking of getting out. I gotta get out. I gotta get a new job. And he's like, you have a desk job. Like, that's the best. He's like, I stock vending machines. Like, do you want to have my job? It's like everything Truman says, Marlon is like kind of giving him the opposite perspective. And he's like, well, I just want to like go somewhere. And he's like, where's there to go? And he tells him he wants to go to Fiji. And he's like, where's Fiji? But at one point, Marlon just says like, well, I hope it happens. Like, when are you going to go? And he's like, it's not that easy, So we kind of get like their kind of tit for tat conversations together. Mm-hmm. And it does feel real.
Yeah.
But also you can kind of see Marlon's wheels turning of like, okay, I can't encourage him too much to like follow his dreams because he can't go anywhere. Like, he's stuck here. And then we see Truman on the beach, and this is where we get a literal flashback on the show. Like, the show does flashbacks.
I think, and honestly, that's because the show at one point shows that there's always a feed of Truman, whether the camera's literally just always on him, or if sometimes there's like something else going on. There'll be like a little box on the side of the screen. Yeah, so you're always watching Truman in some way, shape, or form. I think the way this flashback is presented is just for us, the audience. I think because otherwise it cheats, right? Because we don't get Truman vision, right? We don't get the presentation of the show where it should be a box of present day.
Yeah, but they show
the wiggly lines to indicate that it's going to be a flashback, right? But then what happens next is mostly from the point of view.
Yeah, but the camera angles on the flashback seem like it is.
Yeah, it's still right. Yeah, it's still, they call them vignettes. The way you're watching Bugs Bunny looking through a keyhole, or the opening of like James Bond, where James Bond is walking through a little keyhole.
Yeah.
Okay, but that whole thing. It's basically talking about the manipulation of the camera to make the camera a character because of what you have.
I understand what you're saying, but there's another flashback later on where he meets Sylvia, and we don't get the little box there. So you're thinking that's just for us too?
No, you do. Everything, it's on and off. It's I mean, almost every sequence has it.
Yeah, but you see the people watching what we're watching, commenting on what we're watching. So I think that it's part of the actual show.
Well, the flashback because it's the first flashback is when we witness his father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drowning.
There are shots that we're seeing from the perspective of the boat, or like the button camera or whatever that is. Yeah.
No, but I think because he's on the beach,
mm-hmm.
and they're like, and there's like these two waitresses talking. Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's afraid of the water. And then we see the flashback.
Right.
So I think they're seeing the flashback. Too.
Yeah, I think they are too. But again, I think the film is either cheating or we're basically seeing it to the, I don't know, maybe the way Truman. I don't know if the film is consistent with it.
Oh well, all right. I'm not really worried about that. I'm just thinking like, oh, I like the fact that the show is like, oh, here's a moment where Truman's like looking at something or potentially thinking about a thing. And then they're like, hey, we're going to go with this flashback.
Well, we see later on that they do a lot of variations. There's the True Talk segment, where they're, which is a factor of, The Bachelor. So many reality shows have that. Let's talk about what we just watched.
Yeah.
It's such a factor of it. If anything, it establishes that this show, it has a lot of variety to it. As explained later on, it used to be just one camera, and now we get this thing where it's the most high-tech show on television.
So the crazy part about this, as if there aren't many crazy things, is that so the show had to hire like actual parents for this baby.
Yeah.
And they had to be his parents on TV, but also like for real.
Yeah, actors who are pretending. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but they're actually raising this kid. They're changing his diapers. Yeah,
they're taking him.
Do you think
places.
he was breastfed?
I don't know. He was probably bottle fed, but like because he had to be. He was like technically adopted.
Do you think he was circumcised on television?
Oh my gosh.
Well, look, it may sound like I'm trying to be crude here, but like.
Yeah, well, probably.
But there's stuff that comes up for a PG movie. There is a lot of interesting stuff that comes up in terms of like how far are they taking this, and they're taking it very far.
Yeah, I think they're taking it far enough. They might not be explicitly showing those things like with a camera like right there.
Yeah.
But I think like if there was like a circumcision or something like that when he was a child, I think that was probably like a whole episode.
It's probably on that greatest hits tape we keep hearing about.
Yeah, the greatest hits tape.
I want that true greatest hits videotape.
Yeah, but like, so the fact that then they tell the dad like we're gonna like kill you in an episode, and like
not literally, they kill him off. They kill him off like it's
they
a
kill
soap
him off
opera.
on the show, yes, and you see that he gets rescued by like a scuba diver.
And it's explained. It's cool because it's explained like we needed to come up with a device to keep him on the island.
Yeah,
because the older he got, the more curious, the more adventurous he got.
Yeah, which is so sad. Like. Okay, we'll get into that later, but I have a lot of thoughts about that.
Okay, so we finished the flashback, established that Truman lost his father.
Yeah.
And that's why he's afraid of the water.
So Truman tells his wife he wants to go explore, and she reminds him of his obligations. Like, we have a mortgage, we have car payments, and don't you want a baby, and come to bed, and all this stuff. And it cuts to these viewers that are like, you never see anything. The camera just like pans to, wind blowing into like the room or whatever.
Yeah. But however, it is established that Truman and Meryl, played by the wonderful Laura Linney here, great performance. It's established that they are having sex.
Yeah.
And that they are married, and whether it's legal or not. So
because Christoph was like, I want to have the first like live conception.
Yeah, what the heck is that? So it presents a lot of questions. Like, first of all, what kind of channel is this? Like, what can you show? I mean, is this is this?
Well, no, they don't show them.
No, but I mean, clearly it has to be some kind of a cable channel, right? Maybe it's like the Truman Channel, the T Channel.
Yeah, but I'm picturing like, they start kissing, the camera like pans away, and they probably have like music.
But what do you think the first on-air conception would be? Are we talking about Sweeps Week on the Truman Show?
No,
we're talking about an actual sex scene. I mean, what do we?
I think what they would do. This is what I think. Like,
okay.
If she actually got pregnant, there would be footage of that wasn't live on the air, right? Like they would have shown a.
So this would be like for the Girls Gone Wild tape that they released later on, the sleazy 1-800 number.
No, let me.
Okay.
Okay, so Meryl would probably be like, I remember the night that we conceived like Truman Jr. and they might show like a silhouette, like they might just show.
Ooh, do you think they'd have actors reenact it?
Oh, a reenactment.
Yeah.
Ooh, actually, that's a better idea because then.
And it could be available in two video cassettes: just the televised version or the explicit uncut version.
Yeah, because they can't show pornography, like
but
them
again,
actually having
what kind
sex.
of channel is this, though? I mean,
we're
seeing
on cable.
Well, I mean, if it's HBO or the Playboy channel, clearly they're in the clear to do whatever they want. Then, even in the 90s. No,
they're not doing that because I think the viewers are telling us. Like, because he's like, they never show anything.
Well, that's the thing. But Christoph later on, we're getting ahead of it. But Christoph does say that it's going to be we're sticking to it. It's going to be the first child ever conceived on television. So again, what are we talking about here?
What they're talking about is that cameras are in the room, but I don't think they're showing it.
It's also because, you really get a sense of like, okay, Christoph is thinking about this poetically. He's the creator, and now Truman will be the creator. So we'll have spin-off shows, The Son of Truman, Truman Jr. This is this thing is never going to end.
Yeah, in his mind. Okay, so now we see the next day, Truman sees a man that looks just like his dad in town, and he's like, Dad? Because he looks like a homeless person. And immediately the dad is just like taken away and put onto a bus, and then all of a sudden, like, all this chaos erupts in town. All of a sudden there's like a band, like a marching band in his way, and people just kind of conveniently appear to distract him and block him.
And then as soon as the bus pulls away, the dad is gone. Suddenly there's just silence.
It's
insane how, Truman to his credit recognizes it immediately. All this chaos, and then suddenly it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's crickets.
So he goes to see his mom, and he tells her the story. And, all I can say about this scene is just that every single person in Truman's life is just there to gaslight him every second of every day. Like, that's it.
Well, the mom is especially, that aspect bothers me, because who is this person? How does she feel about her role on this show? How does she feel about her role as a mother? Because to a degree, she really raised this kid.
Yeah.
So what is that like?
She's his adopted mom pretending to be his bio mom.
But that's the problem. It's a pretending situation. So how invested is she? And it's Holland Taylor, who's a wonderful actress. To her credit, like a lot of things in this film, it doesn't over-explain it. It gives you enough interpretations to really consider to consider the full ramifications of what that's like. So I'm looking at her performance, and I'm really like, is she really acting right now? Like, there's a lot of unanswered questions, but good. I think it's smart that we don't know what everybody's up to here.
Yeah, like how everybody feels about everything.
Well, because it plays into the paranoia that Truman is feeling. Like, because once the jig is up and he figures everything out, even he's going like, who can I trust here? Who can I talk to? And and who is any of this real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we see him. He has like a secret trunk in his basement with like childhood photos and stuff.
Yeah.
And his wife comes down to talk to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I saw Dad today," and she's like, "I know," And he's like,
and that's interesting because he looks up at her for a second, and if you look at what like the film is cut very, very tight, but if you look at what's registering on Jim Carrey's face as Truman, it's this whole thing of like, oh, you see it too. And it goes away quickly because then she jumps into her.
Yeah, she's like, oh no, your mother called me.
Yeah. But it sucks because he lives with her. This is his wife.
Yeah.
And, the thing with the trunk, it's a form of deception or even like emotional infidelity because he's thinking, and we learn who it is later on, but he's thinking about somebody else. But when she comes down the stairs and she says, I know about the father, it is this moment like, oh, good, somebody I can talk to, turn to, quickly goes away.
Yeah. And he's like, so, yeah, what do you want? And she's like, I made macaroni. And he's just like, I'm not hungry, And then she's like, why are you fixing that motor? You should get this kind of mower, And it's just like her role is just like constant commercials.
Yeah.
And it is so annoying because he's like, who, what? Like, why?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Constant product placement.
Constant product placement.
Yeah, never ends.
Then we see that Truman has the sweater of his true love, and the show goes into a flashback of their love story and how he wanted to be with someone else, but the show pushed Meryl onto him.
Yeah, it's funny the way they show it, because it is like this really contrived and awkward and really lame meet cute, where Meryl literally throws herself at Truman and claims to have like a strained ankle.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I can't believe I tripped over you. I like sprained my ankle. I'm so embarrassed.
And it's supposed to be high school, which is hilarious because all these actors look like they're in their 30s, But whatever. I love this movie. I don't care. But yeah. But they're all too old to be, passing as high school students.
Right.
Yeah.
So we kind of see how him and Meryl meet, but how he's really into this Sylvia girl whose name on the show is supposed to be Lauren. And who plays her?
Natasha McElhone, who's just fantastic in everything. I'm such a fan of her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's great.
She's really lovely, and he's so taken with her. And, he's like, do you want to go get pizza? And she's like, I'm not supposed to talk to you. You know, and he's kind of like, what? And she's like, no, I can't go get pizza, you know, and then she writes down like now.
It's great because he thinks, oh, like she knows about me and Meryl. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like,
yes.
like she's like, ooh, like this is a girl who's like trying to go behind my girlfriend's back. This
yes.
is great.
Literally doesn't know that she's going behind like an entire corporation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So they run down to the ocean and she's like, this is not real. Like, she's trying to tell him that he's on a TV show, which of course he's not going to understand.
He doesn't quite get it. And
No.
if anything, he thinks like, oh, you're talking about the reality of what it's like to be together, the two of us, and whether there's a chance for us, a future. And then, of course, car pulls up, and it's I don't know, I love the way the film explains all this. Like, an actor playing her father is jumping out and explaining like she's nuts. You're not the first boy.
Yeah, she brings all her guys here.
Yeah, it's clever. It's very clever. So she gets pulled into the car.
And he's like, "We're moving to Fiji. Bye."
Yeah. So he has like her sweater. He has her face, and he has her so-called location. That's all he has left of her.
Well, no, he doesn't even have her face. That's why he's been ripping out.
Well, that's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
he has the memory of her.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, but
That he's trying to recreate with all these from these like Vogue magazines.
Yeah. So behind Meryl's real photo is this mishmash, Picasso he's trying to put together of Sylvia, and it's really sad. And the waitresses are like, why didn't he go to her? And they're like, well, his mom got sick, and he's a nice guy. I'm like, oh my gosh. So again, they like manufacture like a illness so that he gets distracted by the fact that he can't be with this other woman.
Yeah, and every time they talk about how someone was absent because of an illness, or like how Marlon was gone, you think like, oh, okay, that's when the actor was on vacation.
Yeah, that's when they're like, I need a mental health break.
Yeah, so like these actors, like, you go to Disney World for a few weeks and then you come back to the Truman Show, and you get a sense of like that's what they're really talking about.
Yeah. So, but Sylvia's watching Truman on TV because
Boy, is she ever.
She's basically been ejected from the show because she's, I don't know what they would call them, but disloyal.
Yes.
And she's just kind of cheering him on from her house, like, come on.
It looks
Truman.
like she's having rallies. If you look at the posters in the back,
Yeah.
It looks like she's having these Free Truman rallies.
Yeah, it's probably like Free Britney.
Well, I hope it has a little more meaning than that, but yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. Like,
But that's an interesting comparison. I guess it's similar.
yeah, Free Britney from her conservatorship, Free Truman from his fake life.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shows. I do think there's a few parallels.
Oh, you're talking about conservatorship. I was thinking Free Britney from Kevin Federline. I went back to the era of this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, I went back. I took it further back.
No, I'm talking about current.
Yeah, you're talking about contemporary Britney. I'm talking
Yes.
like, Britney, like, right after Crossroads,
Oh, no. I mean, she pretty much, they freed themselves from each other when they got divorced. So, yeah. All right. So, Truman's driving to work again. His radio is malfunctioning and he hears the show's signal with information on his every movement.
he's hearing stage directions. It's great.
Yeah, where it's like he's turning onto the street and Truman's like looking like, that's the street I'm turning on. Like, what's going on? And so then it's like there's this live DJ every time he's in the car, just who's there to just be like, wow, sorry, folks, that was weird.
Yeah. And he's basically getting all of his cues from Truman. You can tell that the DJ clearly can see what Truman is doing. So it's almost like this conversation that Truman's not aware that he's even having.
Right. He goes to the newspaper thing and there's the magazine stand and there's a guy reading a newspaper and it says like the front page story is cracking down on homelessness. And it's again, another way that they're using propaganda.
Yeah.
To
condition this guy
him.
who's now becoming very suspicious. Maybe for the first time in his life to be, have these many. I mean, I guess like the inciting incident is the falling.
The light, yeah.
But I mean, there had to have been things throughout his life that he always wondered.
Yeah. So, So Truman just decides to do something different, and he doesn't go into the office, and he's just like, you can see him like walking around town, like looking at everybody like, what are people doing?
Well, this is when I just completely fell in love with this movie. It's there's no dialogue. It's just Philip Glass's pieces from Philip Glass's body of work, and I think it's from Koyaanisqatsi. I'm pretty sure it's from that movie, and the way it finds a great places to build, and the shot that's so incredible is where Truman's going through the revolving door, and the camera's just on him. And it's the way that he can kind of look behind him for the first time and really see, like, the way everybody just kind of parts and stops their act whenever he just leaves the room, and he's catching everybody, and he's watching everyone very closely, and no one is,
no one's breaking.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like.
Yeah. So it's, I love this scene so much. Because on the one hand, it's a guy very slowly walking around his old neighborhood and just like really looking for seams, and he sees it everywhere he is, and he's seeing all these little subtle things that just aren't right.
Yeah, but I also think he's also seeing that people are just kind of going on with their lives because nobody's looking at him. They're just having conversations.
But some of them are. Some of them are like doing the thing where they're pretending not to look at him, and they look up and they're looking right at him. He's seeing a lot of that.
Oh, okay.
Which, by the way, is what celebrities go through. I'm sure that's what Jim Carrey goes through. He sits at a restaurant and people are trying not to, make it so obvious that they're like, oh my God, there he is, which is what.
Oh my gosh, and that just happened to me the other day.
Yeah.
I had a celebrity spotting. Remember?
Yes.
You were there.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I totally know who that person is. And I was right the whole time, but it was really hard not to just like want to just like stare the whole time, But she was like with her family and her kids and her nanny and her mom, like
right.
Big old family. And it's like, she doesn't need me being like looking at her, like watching everything they're doing.
I thought it was really classy the way you handled that because, Dame Judi Dench just gets that attention wherever she goes. So I thought it was really cool of you to keep your stuff together.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine if we saw Judi Dench? You would have spotted her way before me if that's who it was.
Oh yeah, I would have been shameless.
Okay, so Truman goes and finds Marlon filling his vending machine, and I'm like, wait a minute, is Marlon he's just doing his job? But I'm like, no, they obviously like saw that Truman was having a little bit of a freak out, and so they're like, get Marlon to his vending machine job.
Everybody's standing by.
Yeah.
There's probably just, there's the community, but then there's probably just trailers and trailers, or in the case of like the long cast members, like just these little homes that everybody has back to back. It's like, okay, like you got the call, you got to be on in like 13 seconds, so be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because Marlon, besides his wife, Marlon's like the number 2 main cast member.
Yeah.
In Truman's life. And so, yeah, he probably does just have to like live on set.
Yeah, you wonder if they're like, okay, he's at work from 12 to 4, so you get a break, you get some downtime, and and we'll give you updates, like anything interesting that happened, anything you need to know. Here's some new sides, here's some new dialogue, new products you might want to mention.
Right.
But yeah, daily, it probably is like, okay, like, you need to be aware that at any given moment, you might have to just quickly jump to life, and we'll get you to your location.
Yeah, which is like, you can pay me enough to like be on call like this. Does this guy
Sure they can. Sure they can. Because this is not only...
For 38 years.
Yeah, it's a steady gig. It's like, I've heard people say like, I was on a soap opera for 20, 25 years. Like, why'd you do that? Because it's a steady gig.
Yeah, but...
You're playing the same character for years. Actors dream of that.
I know, but that... You like go home at the end of the day and you see your wife, your kids, like you get... like holidays off, like the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Because even Meryl at the beginning was like, the Truman Show is my life. Like, it's my life. Like, there is no difference between my personal life and the Truman Show. Like, it's all one. That's what she says. That's
so
it.
You think like when she does have a break, when, Meryl...
when she goes to her like fake job,
or say like she tells Truman she's going to go, on a... she has to do surgery in the Congo or something ridiculous.
No, she's not doing that. But I think if she's like, oh,
They probably found a way to write her off momentarily so that the actress
that's
can,
true.
But
she was, if she's like, oh, I have to go to the gynecologist, that's her just like going to the green
You think
room.
they even mention what that is on the show? Because this show, the thing is that's interesting, because even though they mention like, the first child conceived on TV, the whole thing is so vanilla. It's so 1950s. It really wants to be like Norman Rockwell.
Okay, well,
it's
maybe
the setting, and it's also the way that everyone's acting too.
Right, like maybe she doesn't literally say that, but maybe she's like, "Oh, I have a doctor's appointment,
lady doctor." Yeah,
and then no, she's not at the doctor. She's like taking a nap. I don't know. Maybe she's calling her real mom, not her like TV mom.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like it. I don't know if I believe this whole thing of like my life. No, it's probably just like a steady gig. And let's face it. I mean, they're making so much money.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
once this thing is over, I mean, they're gonna walk. They're retiring.
Okay, but Meryl has to like sleep with him every night in the same bed.
Well, that's the uncomfortable thing. It's a form of prostitution.
No, I'm not even talking about sex. I'm talking about literally just like sleep next to him every night.
Sure.
So like she doesn't even get to be not
but
there.
Again, you don't think like she's like, I got a doctor's conference to go to.
Well,
I got I got a seminar in Seattle on surgery. Sure. I got to give.
Yeah, that's possible. I'm not saying
there has to be ways to pull her away, because otherwise, I mean, it would drive you crazy.
Yeah, I agree. So, so he finds Marlon filling the vending machine, and he's like, "There's something going on, and he's like, "Watch, if I do something weird, everyone's gonna notice," and like nobody really notices. So he's like, come on, let's go. And he's like, I could get fired, which is just so hilarious. Sure, Marlon, you're gonna get fired from your vending machine job. So they leave, and Truman tells him he does want to like leave the community forever. Mm-hmm. And he's just kind of having a little bit of a breakdown. Yeah. So then we see him looking at photo albums with his wife and his mom, and this is where well, two things. There's a quick shot of him visiting Mount Rushmore. Yes. And as Truman notices, clearly they're in front of this like little cardboard facade he's like,
of
wow, it looks so small. And she's like, oh, everything looks small in pictures.
And they turn the page very quickly. Yeah, it's great. It's great.
He sees it on his wedding photo that Meryl is crossing her fingers. Yeah. And that's again like a really big clue, because he's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But the other thing is Meryl and the mom leave together, and they're like, no, you stay here. We have to go plan your birthday party. Again, they're probably just like taking a break.
Yeah.
But they're like, what's your favorite show? So like his favorite show is all about like, staying where you are, never leaving, how small town life is great. And, if you have good friends, that's all you need in life.
And that interests me too, because how far does the facade go? Are they making fake movies?
Yeah, I think they have like a fake TV show that they show him.
Like a fake soap opera. So it's a show within the show.
Yeah, I think it's a show within the show.
That's wild. Yeah, because you wonder, like, is there a video store? I mean, what are these movies all about? How, is it all like It's a Wonderful Life? It's all like Capra movies?
Probably.
That's wild.
Because how do if they show things from the real world, he's going to get ideas.
So you get the sense that
it's all propaganda.
Yeah, on at the video store in this world, and on TV you would never see like Around the World in 80 Days.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
You would see
Roman Holiday.
No, you would see movies where it's like, Mom, I want to go explore. She's like, everything's already been discovered. Oh man, I guess I'll go in the backyard and play with my trucks. That's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that sounds sad though to me.
What?
Like just that it's like just that.
This is inspiring. Think about how many people are hired to do this thing. This is a great production. Thousands of people were employed for this one guy. You're welcome, Truman.
Oh my gosh. So, all right. So now that Truman has seen, her crossing her fingers in their wedding album.
It's the next morning, right before she leaves for work.
Yeah. He's like, where are you going? She's like, well, I have surgery, Truman. And, there was an elevator crash and it was right next to where you work. And oh my gosh, it could have been you. And she's like, I really got to get going. And so he wants to see if this is real. And so he follows her.
Well, he says, I'll keep my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And the way she reacts, she knows exactly what he's talking about. And it's great.
Yeah.
Because you get the sense that maybe the camera caught the moment where he saw it. So maybe they're just reporting to her like the next morning, like, yeah, he knows about the finger thing. So it's like, oh God, like, you know, it's a moment where...
they did, because he had a huge magnifying glass.
No, I'm saying like, yeah, like he saw it, but the camera saw that he saw it. So they probably reported to her like he might mention that, and there it is.
Yeah.
So it might be the first real moment in his marriage talking to her.
Oh, where she just kind of looks like,
It's this little moment where they're actually seeing each other for the first time, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it's funny because he goes to the hospital and like everybody's trying to stop him.
Yeah.
And it's just hysterical because there's like these people in wheelchairs trying to like race to like block his way.
It's so absurd, but it's very clever.
Yeah. And then a guy like taking all this stuff down the hall, just like, oh, blocking it. He's like, here, let me help you. And he just like
Throws it down the hallway. Yeah, it's great.
A lot of funny things. So then he sees the surgery room, and obviously it's like an actress.
But they very quickly said, lie here. And an actor who's like, very quickly, you're the head surgeon. And
which is so funny because you see like one leg and it's not mangled at all. It's totally fine. And Truman's like trying to look, and Meryl's
it's like bad improv that he's watching. Yeah.
And Meryl's like, oh, beautiful work, doctor. It's so beautiful. So then finally someone's like, Truman, you can't watch surgery, you know.
Yeah.
So they take him, but he's still like, okay, this is weird, because he goes to the travel agent to book a flight to Fiji.
It's great. I mean, because it was so funny because around the time this movie came out, I had my own fear of flying. It was very intense and it was very debilitating. There was a time in my life where I just could not fly. So I've gone to travel agencies envisioning the kind of posters that are on the wall here.
Oh my gosh.
You know, these hilarious posters of it could happen to you, and it's a jetliner with lightning striking through the wind. Yeah.
It's really funny because it's so like...
Yeah, this is a travel agency.
Like a travel agency that's discouraging travel.
Yeah,
like it makes no sense.
And then the travel agent comes out, and a detail that I didn't notice until this time, she has like this little bib on that she quickly pulls off. It means that she just got out of the makeup chair and she forgot to pull it off.
Yeah, because they were like, "Oh my gosh,
quick! Yeah, we need an actress. Okay, you're on."
Yes. Yeah. So there's the poster. It could happen to you. Oh, I think that's the only one.
Yeah.
With the so lightning going through the airplane.
Yeah.
But he's like, yeah, I need a ticket to Fiji. Like, she's like, well, when? He's like, today. She's like, I don't have anything for a month. And would you like me to book that? He's like, never mind, you know. So he goes to take the bus, and you can see when he gets on this bus, everyone is like, oh no. This is probably the bus that like takes them
to and fro to work.
Yeah.
These extras.
Yeah.
And it's a very colorful assortment. I mean, I think I saw 2 nuns.
Yes.
It's like, where's the convent? Yeah, like it's pretty funny.
And there's a little girl who's like, isn't that? And the mom's like, don't talk. But the bus driver basically destroys the engine of this bus by like...
just putting the wrong gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he doesn't know how to drive this bus. He's an actor. He's not a bus driver.
Oh, I thought he knew how to drive the bus, but he did that on purpose.
You think? I mean, in any case...
Because if it's a bus taking extras out of the world...
Well, maybe they just put an actor in that situation, not the real bus driver.
Oh, yeah, maybe you're right. But he's just like grinding these gears.
Yeah, and smoke comes up, and very quickly, everybody off, and quickly the bus exits. And this
is poor Truman.
It's a touching shot where Truman is just sitting by himself, and it's like, I can't believe this. I can't believe that this keeps happening. But he's devastated. He's just like, yeah, this is something that it's, you know, it's a broken moment for him. It's like this.
Even the bus driver can tell.
Yeah, the bus driver says, "I'm sorry, son." Yeah, yeah, it's nice.
He's really sad for him. Okay, so Meryl comes home and Truman's sitting in his car, and this is when he tells her about the people that are like walking by, driving by, like, and he's like, ready? We're going to see this person, and this car. And, you know, he points everybody out to her. And she's kind of like, what are you doing? And he's like, they go around the block. And then they go around again, and he's like, what's going on? They discuss Fiji. Like, he drives off and he's going around the roundabout really fast, and he's like, let's go here. And all of a sudden there's like traffic, and he's like, wow, what do you know? Traffic in the middle of the day. And then he drives around again, stops on the same street, and there's no traffic. He's like, wow, that's interesting. So he's getting blocked at every turn. And
there's a moment I love where it's another thing where it's like he's connecting to this actress playing his wife for the first time, where he mentions like the fact there's no traffic, and she's like, you're acting like it's my fault, and he goes, is it?
Yeah,
that's wonderful.
And she does, I think, a really good job of trying to play it cool, but also being terrified. Because this is one of the first times she's ever seen him.
She's not in control here at all, and she can't just rely on product placements and exiting the set to keep things going. Exactly, she's stuck, and she knows that she's in a situation where this guy is just not. He's just unconvinced of reality, and he's there's nothing she could do to break him of this.
He ends up he's stuck on this bridge, and she's like, oh, Truman, you can't drive over water.
Yeah.
You're afraid of water, remember? And he basically like forces her to like hold the steering wheel and just like guns it. Yeah. And he's kind of like, I'm going to make it over this bridge no matter what. Yeah. It's a really great scene. Yeah. But so again, she's like totally gaslighting him, like, you can't do it.
I'm gonna call your mother.
Yeah. And they get over the bridge, and then there's a fire. There's like a leak at the plant.
There's this plant we never even heard of before, right?
I mean, there's just like
chemical plant.
There's all this stuff, and he can't get past all of these barriers.
And a great moment, and it's chilling actually if you're not ready for it, is where a very helpful cop comes over, because they're in the middle of nowhere where this company is allegedly this plant has an accident. So they tell him,
they're in the middle of nowhere, but I think they're on the edge.
It's across the way. I mean, it's outside of city limits.
Yeah, but it's I think it like where they are is like almost exiting the actual
yeah exactly so it's far out there, because I mean, how many acres do you think this thing is, or miles?
I don't know, it tells you, but I don't
but in
remember.
any case so the very helpful actor playing the trooper is telling him to turn around. Truman says thank you, and he says no worries, you're welcome Truman, and he hadn't told him his name. And oh man, if you watch Laura Linney in this moment, it's so chilling, the look on her face. She's so scary in this moment.
Oh no.
Because then Truman gets out of the car and books it, which is totally the right thing to do, and he gets tussled to the ground by guys in hazmat suits.
Yeah, it's like a scene out of E.T.
Yes, it is.
Where he's E.T. and these scientists are like trying to tackle him and imprison him.
And it's also this thing, once again, like the casting is perfect, because it's not only, because we care about Jim Carrey, of course we do. The fact that it's this beloved character on this show, and he's being treated in such an inhumane way, it does hurt to watch it. And Carrey, there's moments like this where he's not playing it for laughs. We're just seeing a guy so defeated. It's so sad. Mm-hmm. So it works. It works because they cast this incredibly likable actor, but we care about Truman. We don't. He's surrounded by villains, but we certainly care about him.
So that night, like, Truman and Meryl are in the kitchen, and he's trying to have a real conversation with her, and she like picks up this like box of cocoa powder and just like does like this improv commercial, and he's like, who are you talking to? Like, what are you doing? You asked me the moment that I thought it was like really real for him, that this was all fake. I think it's this moment where she yells out, do something, because he's like, who are you talking to?
Right.
Like, obviously you're not telling, am I not the only one here? Yeah. So she's freaking out, and then
she has a breakdown.
Yeah, she has a breakdown. Marlon comes over. Again, every time Marlon comes over, he's got a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah, and he holds it straight into the camera's face so we can see the logo on the product.
Exactly. Yeah. And Meryl's just like, oh, thank God. How can anyone expect me to work in these conditions? It's so unprofessional. And it's like, oh, wow, she's really letting loose.
Yeah, she's just, it's over for Meryl.
It's over for Meryl.
Yeah. In fact, forgive me, this is her last scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't see her for the rest of the film, and it's alluded to later that she left Truman. I would have loved to have seen that scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, she left.
Maybe they had her like send him a letter. Maybe she couldn't.
That's true.
Maybe she couldn't bring herself to like face him again.
Yeah, they might have had one of their writers come up with a letter.
Yep, because she's like, guess what, guys? I am done. He had a knife up to my throat, and I'm not going back.
And she's got a future, doing commercials for the rest of her life. So,
oh man,
she's good.
She's really good. So this is the conversation with Marlon, and him and Truman are like out in their special spot on the bridge, and he's getting his lines fed to him from Christoph.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this is when the film's it's the second act, second, third act. I mean, we're really getting into the merging of the fake and the real world here. And, we're finally returning to the Ed Harris character, who we hadn't seen for a long period of time. So we see how it works, where he's got a mic and he's feeding the lines that Marlon is saying to Truman. We're seeing that, Ed Harris's character, Christoph, is inside this studio. And, we're seeing exactly how this is working. And as I told you, like, for me, I think this, my opinion, this is the moment where Truman is realizing that it's all a facade, because he knows it's fake. And Marlon basically says the thing that he probably shouldn't say, because it's what Truman is thinking, which is that, look, if it's not real, then I'm not real either. Then all of this is fake. So
yeah.
He's like, there's no in. I'm not in on it. Watch what Carrie and Emmerich are doing here, because Emmerich has these moments where he's telling Truman, I would never lie to you, and clearly he's lying. And there's weight to the way Emmerich is playing, and it's beautiful, because he's, I don't know, it does seem like there is a sense of, inner torment. And I really feel like Carrie is showing us that, like, this is it for Truman. He knows that his last stab at holding it together and maybe accepting that he's out of his mind or things are wrong, it's all gone here, because now this has happened.
Yeah.
And then what happens next is even more far-fetched.
Oh, yeah. So he, like, Marlon's like, I have, like, your dad is back. So he brings his dad back to the show. And
they embrace on the bridge, and we see how the show works. And it's a funny moment where, we see Christoph orchestrating this whole thing. And he's telling the composer to up the music because it's all live. And, of course, the composer is Philip Glass, the movie's actual composer, which is really funny to see him like more softer with the music, softer, and and slow close up so that when they embrace and they hug and everything.
And he's like, Dad, and everyone's like clapping and cheering,
Yeah, but before we get into what happens next, because then we get this montage of how the Truman Show works as a television show, I think it's interesting to consider exactly what happens in the third act, which is, not to jump too far ahead, but Truman's escape. How does that happen? Well, he's embracing this actor who plays his father, or played his father for a amount of time, and it's established that the father could sail. And later on in the film, Truman is able to sail, and it's this thing of like, where did he learn? I kind of wonder what the father said to him while they were embracing. I wonder if that was the moment where he like, I'll tell you how to get out of here, and I'll tell you what's what.
Yeah, but there might. So I don't know realistically if he would have been able to get away with that.
Well, between, all the, the emotional histrionics and the music, I don't know. I don't know.
It's an interesting theory.
If anybody, because he's also, he came back, unwanted, unwelcome. He came back as an extra into the show, and it was a long time. Why did he come back? It's because not only because it's a steady gig, but
I think he came back because he really felt like Truman's dad.
Yeah, and I suspect he was probably the one who did the only fatherly thing he had left in him, which is to help his son get out of there.
Oh, interesting.
Just an idea. I don't know, but I suspect it, because that's also we have one other scene, but like there's that character also fades away.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So then After this bit of business, then we get a montage of Truman going back to the way it was. The illusion.
Well, but before that, there's the
the montage of how
So there's an interview with Christoph on TV, and
it's True Talk, and it's hosted by Harry Shearer of This Is Spinal Tap and The Simpsons.
And he's like, we have a rare opportunity to interview the creator of the Truman Show. Thank you so much. You know, it's almost like, oh, God is in the room and like he's actually going to talk to us, you know? So this part is funny though, where they explain like all the infiltrators that tried to like, you know, free Truman and tell him what's going on throughout his whole life. Like someone popping out of like a present, you know, someone who like parachuted in, which I don't even know how they would parachute into this place.
I guess it's established that it's a dome that you could see from outer space. So it's presumably somebody got to the top of this thing and got through, you know, pulled an Ethan Hunt and went through the air duct and jumped down. Yeah.
But all of the people that tried to tell him, so they do a funny montage with that. But yeah, this is where Christoph said they had to manufacture ways to keep Truman from leaving the island. That Truman was an unwanted pregnancy and the first baby to be adopted by a corporation. So he said, we accept the reality of the world in which we are presented.
That's a profound thing. And I say that all the time because there are people in this life, whether it's an ideology or religion or just a broken frame of mind or a form of bigotry or whatever it is that is keeping them from being better people or just forcing them, causing them to see the world in this fractured way. It's like, yeah, you know, people believe what they want to believe. And it's a comfort for people when they have others around them to support that ideology or whatever that thing is that they're holding on to. So he's right. But he's also talking about how the Truman Show has not only conditioned one person, but has conditioned the world. I mean, this is someone who convinced the entire world to watch a regular person on TV, which on one hand sounds very banal. I mean, it does sound like the lamest, you know, reality TV show. And let's face it, considering all the real stuff that has happened, namely the Kardashians over the years, the Truman Show is pretty plain compared to the real stuff that's on TV now. But I mean, it is interesting because, I mean, you know, we're talking about somebody who, you know, obviously in this world has a Steve Jobs like hold on the world with his innovations and his technological breakthroughs.
So then Sylvia calls in the show to yell at Christoph, and the host is like, "Oh, we can go to the next caller," and Christoph is like, "No, we know who this person is. Like, yeah, tell us what you think, you know." And she basically tries to tell Christoph off. And he tells her, like, you think you know him? You know, like, you spent 30 minutes with him. Like, you don't know him at all. But she's trying to express that he's a bad person for what he's doing to Truman and that Truman will eventually break free.
And then, you know, it's this back and forth conversation about the moral ethics of the show. Is there one? You know, can you look at it in a morally ethical way? And I have lots of thoughts about that. You and I talked about that last night. One of the things this sequence reminds me of, the whole True Talk thing, it reminds me when you would have The Wonderful World of Disney on TV, and it'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, a special guest, Walt Disney. Walt Disney come up like, hi, I'm Walt Disney. And like, of course he's on the show. Of course, you know, it's called The Wonderful World of Disney. So it is funny that they're like, ladies and gentlemen, Christoph, the creator of The Truman Show, on The Truman Show.
Right.
You know, and they treat him like a god. But he's also clearly, you know, a programmer, because one of the funniest one-liners that he comes up with, they ask, like, how are you going to explain this whole thing about Truman's father being gone? It's like amnesia. Like, oh, perfect. Because this is the age of, like, every soap opera, every show, every movie. It's like, everybody's got amnesia.
Yeah. So then he says, you know, Meryl's going to be leaving the show, and you know, we're gonna have to introduce like a new love interest. And
it's like, oh my gosh, you found another actress to sleep with Truman Burbank, who is going to be, you know, basically his life partner on camera.
Well, you know, if he, you know, falls in love with her.
How long was Meryl's gig? I mean, we're talking like what? Let's say 16 years old till she was like 35. So about 15 years.
I think it was like 18 to 38.
And that's wild. That's
20 years.
That's a lifetime. Yeah.
I think she was on the show like 20 years.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy. But All right, now we're back to the actual Truman Show, and he's back like talking in his bathroom mirror.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks he's back to his old self.
Yeah, because he's acting just like he was before.
Yeah, but he does say something at the end of that. He's like, that was for you. Kind of like he knows now that he's entertaining somebody.
Yeah.
I don't think he doesn't understand how big it is.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But now he's like, that was a freebie. Like he says something like that.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I'm like, oh yeah, like he's kind of just giving people what they want because
what they expect.
Yeah, what they expect, and he's got a plan. So he
and every morning, part of his morning ritual after he gets the paper, he always runs into these two twins in suits. And it's always the same thing where he's talking to them and they always push him to the side so that he's out of frame of the commercial in the background.
Yes.
Which is so funny that this happens every single morning to him.
Yes. It's like, oh my...
It's like Ned Ryerson every morning with this guy.
It is a lot of... Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Groundhog Day.
Yeah, although Groundhog Day was talking about a community, that's kind of stuck in tradition or whatever. This is like... This really is this Norman Rockwellian world where it's like 50s standards, 50s, social cues, how conservative it is on some level, trying to create the all-American experience.
Right.
Certainly the American dream.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so then we find out the people in the control room, the Christoph is like, where's Truman? They're like, oh, he's just sleeping in there. Like, he's like, well, do you have a better angle? Because you can't see his face.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, he's just like sleeping. The other cameras are blocked.
And clearly it's like in the dead of night.
And yeah, there's, he basically like fakes them out by getting like a big blow up and covering it with a blanket in his basement. And they figure out that he's gone. So they cut the transmission of the show.
And the world freaks out.
Yeah, that part is so crazy because they get Marlon over there to like see if he's actually there, and Marlon discovers the blow up.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, he pulls a Shawshank and tunnels out.
And it's behind a poster of Fiji.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like literal Shawshank tunneling behind a poster, and that goes into his backyard or something.
Yes.
So
yeah, and you have a moment where Marlon looks right at the camera like he's gone, and then they cut the transmission. Everybody freaks out. It's interesting. Like I do love all the scenes of all the people around the world watching the show. One, it's interesting that you have a Japanese family, and the son is Yuji Akamoto, Chosen from the Karate Kid Part 2 and the current Cobra Kai. Yes, there's like a lot of character actors doing bits where they're looking right at the camera and they're all wearing like, Truman shirts and sweaters and they got posters.
Oh, yeah, I like the old lady who has a Truman pillow. She just
Right.
hugs.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's fascinating to think it's established in the True Talk segment. This is a huge business. This is a huge character. This is one of the biggest, most recognizable faces on television. And, the appeal is that everybody got to watch him grow up. Yeah, it's like Kelly Clarkson. I mean, did Kelly Clarkson have a shot at being a career, having a career? Sure, she was talented, but the fact that the world, certainly America, feels like, look, like we made her a star.
Yeah, we voted
for her. We discovered her. We voted for her. We saw her through. So in a sense, it's like she owes us, but we nurtured her development. It is that kind of, mentality. Yeah.
Well, so
sorry, Kelly Clarkson.
They show like the manhunt, everybody like arm in arm, like looking for Truman.
Yeah, and this is the last time you see the parents, excuse me, where the mother is still remaining in character. Like, if he just hears my voice, and the father goes like, Truman, but it is, and it seems like Marlon is the one, or whoever he really is as a person outside of the Truman Show, he's the one who's not in character, who's kind of looking around like this isn't working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed that some of the characters, like those two twin guys, they are, I think they're actually producers of the show because they're like, just find him. Like they're super like scary. And then his next door neighbor with the dog. Yeah,
it's hilarious. The Dalmatian is like a bloodthirsty monster when it's not during the daytime.
Yeah. And Truman's actually really scared of him. Yeah. And he's like, oh, he's fine. But he's actually not fine.
Yeah, bloodthirsty bloodhound on the scent. Yep.
So they say, they're like, we don't have eyes on the water. And they're like, but he's scared of the water. And he's like, find him. And so they actually turn the sun on prematurely, which is hilarious.
Yeah, which is a great moment where, Harris his back is to us and he turns to profile and says, cue the sun. I'm like, oh man, that's a movie trailer moment right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they find him sailing in the water. And then you said, how did he learn how to sail?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, there wasn't really like the internet back then. I mean, how did he learn how to sail? Do you think he just kind of...
Well, it's the key line, and not to jump to the last scene, but it's that key line where Truman says, you never had a camera in my head.
Yeah.
We never knew how he learned to sail. We never knew how he learned to, dig a hole through his house that provided him an escape.
That's true.
It's like that moment where he improvised driving across the bridge. I think he just found survivalist warrior ways within him. It's like, look, I do or die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they...
I mean, a boat is a heck of a thing to improvise your way through, but he saw his father do it. And like I said...
They probably sailed a lot when he was a kid, though,
yes,
before the accident.
Yes, and I do suspect that his father had a hand in not only confirming the unreality of it, but maybe even helping him escape.
Yeah, so... But they, Christoph sends a huge storm. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone in the control room is like, well... what if he dies? He's like, he was born on television and he can die on television. It's like, dang.
Yeah, and Paul Giamatti is his basically his number 2 guy who's controlling the weather, which is interesting to see Giamatti in this. And then of course there's also Philip Baker Hall, who I guess is the head of the network. He pops up here and there. But it's like, the creator is turning on his creation, and initially it's just a matter of sort of sedating him, controlling him, scaring him. But then, Truman defiantly looks at the camera and says, is that all you got? And Christoph takes it personally. Yeah. And loses his temper and turns the volume up to 11 and basically hits Truman with this tsunami.
Yeah. So then he's like, okay, that's enough. And the sun comes out and the water calms down and his boat runs into the wall.
Yeah, it's an amazing shot. If you don't expect it, to see, the head of the ship just crash into this wall, which looks like the facade of it's great.
And just to see Truman like, what? There's a wall? Like, he gets out of the boat and he's just like walking along the edge of this dome and finds some stairs.
Yeah, before that, I mean, I should mention, it's always a scene that really affects me where Truman, he touches the wall. And it is like, it's almost like the picture of David touching the hand of God. He's touching the wall, and it's like, it's this physical confirmation of what he always knew was there. It's always there. This thing, keeping him from escaping, keeping him from living, and he's pounding against it. And the camera, like, Carrie's back is to the camera. And I remember the first time I saw this movie, and I felt like, he needs to turn around. This is like the Oscar moment. This is a big moment for this character. He's breaking down. He's crying. It's so powerful. But looking at it the other day, like, I was so moved by it. It's like, the fact that we're still looking at this through Truman vision, we're still looking at these cameras, so clearly, we're not seeing the best view of this performance that Carrie is giving, because this is the only camera that was on him at the moment, on Truman Burbank. And it is more effective that we only see a little bit of what's going on with him in his face, because physically we see exactly what's going on. Anyway, it's a very powerful moment. And if anything, like, now I look at it, I go like, oh yeah, the fact that the camera's not right on Carrie, who of course could give the performance of a lifetime. Instead, like, it's more suggesting it, because we're seeing his body breaking down. It's like, this is this wall that will not go away. And he's just, again, he feels defeated, even though he's kind of discovered this whole new world now.
Well, he hasn't quite discovered the world yet. He just has discovered that his world is fake.
Yeah, and it's a shot where he's literally walking on water. More on that. He's literally walking on water because he's found this little path leading to this staircase, leading to this door. He opens. It's black, but clearly it's a way out.
Right, and then Christoph is like, I want to talk to him. So he does talk to him. And he's like,
and the Christoph's voice is coming from the clouds, so it's definitely, it's not subtle. which is why I've always felt comfortable talking about how the movie may work as an allegory. We'll talk about that. Some kind of theological dissection.
But
because,
he was asking him, like, who are you and who am I?
Yeah.
You know, and what was all this? And why, you know, but the thing, like Christoph says, like, you were real. You were the reason that this worked.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, oh, it's a TV show. And then he's like, aren't you going to say something? Like, the whole world watching.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's when Truman just turns around and, like, says, in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And just takes a bow.
And he says it in a way, it's like, up yours.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest middle finger he can give this guy. And it's great. It's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly. So then he just, like, walks out the door and, like, that's it. And then you see these people, like, everyone who's watching is, like, cheering. Like, finally!
Everyone around the world is cheering.
Yeah, like, he escaped. And Sylvia, like, runs out to go find him. And these two, like, security guards are like, hey, you want to see what else is on TV? Like, okay.
Yeah, and the movie abruptly ends. I mean, it's a tight film. It's under 2 hours, and it moves. It doesn't over-explain itself. I think it tells us just enough with how the show works and the logic of it, and the fact that these actors have been doing this for years. I like that it doesn't over-explain. It's certainly we don't need to know about the sex stuff, although it's very curious because because the film.
You keep bringing it up.
Well, look, the fact that that's there is important because that's one of the things that makes this thing so insidious, right?
Yeah. Because
otherwise, the whole thing of him living in this world, which by the way is a real place. This is this gated community in Florida that everybody dreams about living in, and Truman, as Christoph tells him, like, you are, you stay here, you're protected. The world out there is not good. Yeah. Stay here. You will be protected. You will be loved. Yeah. And plus he's living in this, this Norman Rockwell utopia. And as I said to you, like, on the one hand, I get it. I wanted to escape. On the other hand, most people would be down for this. Most people, especially now in the world we live in where everybody is self-documenting. Look at us with our podcast. Everybody is narcissistic with, reality TV star grandeur, as a goal.
Yeah, but someone might be down for it if they've already lived in the real world and things just aren't going well for them. They might opt in to something like this.
But he's also talking about this. I mean, don't you think Truman would think for a moment like, oh yeah, it might be easier for me just to go back?
No, because he doesn't know what he's missing. He wants to see what's out there.
Right.
He's curious.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, it's like, do you get on that rocket ship and go to another world, or do you stay on the planet that you know? Do
you stay with, like, Psycho Meryl, who can only talk to you?
Well, Meryl's been written off. It's fine. No. We saw the new Office Girl, so clearly that season 16 is going to be really exciting. Clearly, a child is going to be conceived on TV and all over the place.
Yeah, she was
She's cute.
Much flirting with him.
Oh yeah,
but like, he's already like figured out that this is not real. This is not genuine. Who are these people? What's he supposed to do? Like, go back and keep pretending? Or, like, if he were to go back, can he now talk about how it's fake? Or does he have to pretend? You know what I mean? Like, what do you even do?
I'm not saying it's what I wanted him to do, but I mean, for me, there is an emotional reality that makes sense where he would go back. Yeah. He would just keep going with this because it's comfortable. It's what he does.
But he's been holding Sylvia's sweater and tearing out pictures of eyes and nose and hair and trying to create a collage of her face, and now he has the chance to go find her. Like, he's not going to give that up.
Yeah, but he also has to realize how fruitless and ridiculous this is. I mean,
no, he doesn't realize that.
Well, he doesn't know that she probably lives within 20 miles of the studio. She probably lives in the same state where they filmed the Truman Show. Yeah. So like, but he thinks she's in Fiji.
Yeah. And
this is before the internet. What are the chances that they're actually going to find each other?
Because she knows where the dome is and he's leaving the dome. And everyone knows he's leaving, so she's going to find him.
He's going to be swarmed.
Everybody knows he wants to be with her, So it's going to be like crowd.
But he hasn't seen her since he was in high school. Don't you think like there's going to be a lot of like, I'm Meryl, or I'm Sylvia?
No.
You think they'd step forward and...
No, he knows who she is. He knows who she is.
He's got that Vogue, Vanity Fair, Esquire magazine compilation to tell him.
He's going to be like, I'm looking for Sylvia. And everyone's going to be like, help Truman find Sylvia. Like that.
She's got the eyes of Christine Brinkley. She's got the neck of Elle McPherson.
They know who she is. They've all watched her.
That's true.
She's on the greatest hits.
She's
on the greatest hits tape.
That's right.
They all know who she is.
Yep.
Like 6 Degrees of Separation or whatever. Like he's going to walk out of this dome, see the real world, and then everyone's going to be like, look, it's Truman. And he's going to be like, help me find Sylvia. They're all going to come to his rescue. He probably finds her in 30 minutes.
Now, do you think the show is going to be canceled at this point, or do you think the real tragedy of this movie is that those thousands of television artists are all going to be unemployed?
Yeah, they're all going on unemployment. They all have to find new jobs.
That's so sad. All the good work that they did on that show.
They had this
catering to just
38
one person.
years. Most people don't have the same job for 10 years.
And it's all ending because one man, I mean, Truman Burbank is a monster to walk away from this. And all those unemployed people.
I know you were not serious.
The visionary grandeur of Christoph and what he has provided just for one person who will not go back and just walk through his life. And allow all these people,
through his life.
just sleepwalk through your life and just enjoy this perfect living existence.
Who's gonna that's the other thing. If you're playing devil's advocate here, so here's me doing it.
Maybe I want to live there. Maybe I want to be Truman Burbank.
Yeah, exactly. But he goes back and he's not the same person. Mm-hmm. So maybe the show's ratings just plummet because he's like, I already know it's fake. What if he just ends up sitting in his house, watching his fake TV shows, just scratching his nether regions, eating bonbons. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. Yeah, does the show lose its appeal once we know?
Exactly.
It's like, this guy's just on a vacation
exactly. Now he's not doing jack. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Because he knows he doesn't have to.
This is like those shows we watch where the couples are there's sexual tension and chemistry. They sleep with each other and nobody watches the show anymore.
Yeah.
It's like that.
It's like Lois and Clark, my favorite show in high school. And they finally got
we've already had the first conception on TV. I don't even watch the Truman Show anymore. That show used to be like what do we have to look forward to now? Okay, he's gonna have a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
show from your life, just name one show that you wish was like the Truman Show, where the actors on it, either all of them or one of them, were not aware that the show was fake? Can you name one?
That I would want?
Yeah.
Probably The Office.
The Office. That's interesting, since The Office is already halfway there.
Yeah.
It's the illusion that we're watching a fake show. That's interesting.
It would be hilarious if there was somebody who actually thought that was a real documentary and these were real people working at a paper company and that Michael Scott was their actual boss. That would have just made it so much funnier.
My pick for a television show that was long running and beloved, where I wish the lead actor really believed that it was all real. Scott Bakula on Quantum Leap. That he really thought he was time traveling into all those different people's lives. And Dean Stockwell's like, yeah, sure, Sam. Now you're a woman in the 60s.
Oh my gosh. I don't know how they could have pulled that off, to make him think that it was real.
You know what's interesting? Because if we talk about it that way, the best Truman Show ripoff was, because the year after this movie came out, Ed TV came out with Matthew McConaughey, nowhere near as good. And by the way, Ed is nowhere near as interesting as Truman. But I think the best companion piece with the Truman Show, Bolt.
Oh, yeah.
Bolt's a great,
Love that.
It's basically the Truman Show with dogs, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned this last night. I really appreciate you saying this because I had never thought of it before. But, the world of the Truman Show is a cult, and Christoph is a cult leader.
Yep.
Bolt is kind of like how someone escapes from this, and it's this whole idea of being deprogrammed after years and years of being conditioned by this television show that's telling you everything you're experiencing is real.
Well, you were bringing up how maybe Christoph is God and
all right.
no, okay,
go
but
ahead,
I just want to say
yes,
I think when we first saw this movie back in the 90s, I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, he's the creator. He's like looking down on his creation, and he's like sort of controlling things, making things happen. But now that I'm older and hopefully a little bit wiser, like I just don't think that that's an accurate representation of God. I think it really is more a cult leader. And because he is like literally feeding lines to people to lie to Truman. And Truman is being gaslit at every turn. Like, he can't find the truth. He can't find anyone to tell him the truth. And everything from the radio to the newspaper to his own wife are all like, and his own mom, all telling him things to keep him believing this lie, that his life is real, that these things are real, and that he shouldn't want to travel, shouldn't want to like have any dreams or anything like that, just want to stay in this little town. And even though he doesn't even want to. So like, he has these desires and these dreams, and everybody's like, no, that's not going to happen for you. You're scared of the water. You can't, you're crazy. You can't do that. You know, so the propaganda and the gaslighting that happened to him is total cult mentality 101. You know what I mean? And you asked me if I thought Truman would be able to make it in the real world. And I was like, yes, 100%. Like, you see people come out of these cults that were completely brainwashed by, you know, these narcissistic leaders. And yeah, like, they do have to go through a bit of deprogramming and therapy and, you know, be in like a safe place with people who can help walk them through like what happened to them, which I do think Truman will have to do once he's out. But it's not impossible, you know, like, yeah, his life was, the reality of his life was a lie, but doesn't mean that his experiences in that world weren't real to him. So like all those things that happen in childhood, you know, like going to the beach, like building sandcastles, you know, there are things that were real, but, you know, eventually he needed to spread his wings and fly, and like nobody wanted him to do that.
I don't see him working in the real world at all. I think his experience in, you know, again, if we're going to
like getting a job or just living a life.
I think Sylvia, they would have to live in total seclusion. They would have to be living off the grid somewhere, because it's not just that he's going to have PTSD to rival Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. I mean, It's, you know, this is someone who all of his childhood memories, all of his teen memories, everybody has a reference for. This is like if I, you know, I mean...
Oh, yeah, he could go back and just, like, watch his life.
He could do that, which is a whole
weird
kind of scarring. And this is also, like, if you meet people, like, oh, you know, it would be like, oh, yeah, like, somebody... I mean, imagine someone talking about an intimate moment of your life, like it was the Soup Nazi episode from Seinfeld. It's that kind of thing. It's like, it's so crazy that everybody has an opinion about him, and he's only becoming aware of it. So I think he and Sylvia would, you know, maybe... they would do like a little bit of press or like write a tell-all book, and then they would have to vanish, because who can you be friends with? Someone who hasn't been watching The Truman Show? That's like finding someone who hasn't been watching Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones in the last few years. Everybody has a reference for this.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like when they used to talk about like how hard it was to find a juror for the O.J. Simpson trial. How hard is it to find someone who doesn't know this person? Where could they live in obscurity?
They have to become Amish.
Well, there's a movie.
Well, so my thought was, I think Truman has grounds to sue Christoph's corporation because, you know, there was no informed consent for this situation. And so I think he could sue him for like multiple millions of dollars. And then, yeah, him and Sylvia, maybe they get a boat and they sail around the world. Like maybe they do live off grid. I don't know. But I think eventually they could find a small community of people that either didn't watch the show or didn't care about it, you know, and have some kind of like family. Maybe he goes and finds his like real birth mom. Who knows?
It does speak to what it is like to become a mega celebrity who has a, you know, maybe like what it's like to be Taylor Swift, because Taylor Swift is not an off-putting person. Taylor Swift is very much like, look, I have fans. They're called Swifties. And I am hugely popular, and my songs are about all of you, about all of us. It's a shared experience, and I'm not saying this.
Are you a secret Swiftie?
Definitely not.
Oh, okay.
I like her, but I'm not a huge fan. But I mean, whoever it is, I just pulled the name out of a hat. Whoever it is, if you get to that level of fame where everything about your life, everything, whether it's Cruise, Bruce Willis, Will Smith, whoever, where someone is so ultra mega famous, and there just isn't enough of, I mean, we talk about like Christian Bale. When he became famous, people really didn't know who he was. They weren't even aware of like who he was married to, as opposed to someone who like grew up in front of a camera. And that's what we're talking about here. Yeah. So I think it speaks to that, like the danger of that, and also how it creates an impossible existence. Which is why when Christoph offers Truman, like, we did all this for you, we are protecting you. To a degree, it's like this can either be a utopia or this can be hell. It just depends on how you look at it.
Yeah.
But I do see it as a religious parable. I do. I think, and it's not, and I agree with you, because it is the question of like, well, what is the interpretation exactly? What is this movie saying? Is it saying that it's about what, turning your back to God, or accepting God, the good and the bad? Accepting this idea that God can be punishing as well as full of grace. I don't think it's about that. I think it's strictly about predestination versus free will. I think that's about the relationship that we have with God that this movie is talking about. Because look, his name is Christoph. It's spelt like of Christ, Christ of. I don't think that's an accident. The fact that Sylvia is praying while Truman is making the decision whether to go through the door. Truman, as he bows, he lifts up his hands, and the way it's framed, there's the black bar behind him, and his hands are outstretched. It does look like a cross. He's clearly meant to be the Son of God in some way. He is shown walking on water in that last scene. I know it's a visual, but I mean, it is a implied visual. And the fact that Christoph has this godlike power, not to mention knowledge, and in his way, an empathy for Truman, I think it does speak to that. The shot where Truman is asleep and Christoph sort of very lovingly caresses his face on this giant screen, it's like that speaks to how a lot of us, envision our relationship with God. And in terms of being a father-son relationship, and the fact that, to talk about it this way, to talk about God's judgment, to talk about the unknowable, to talk about how, in the Old Testament, God was angry, to talk about all those things about God that are untouchable, and about the things about God that are relatably universally human, that we all believe. That's where it gets really interesting, because I think it's about a creator trying to understand his creation and vice versa. But as Truman says in the last scene, and it's a key line, he says, "You never had a camera inside my head." And that's why it was never copacetic, because there was such a level of dishonesty to it. But then it's that question of like, well, what kind of life is it if it's predestination versus free will? If you have the freedom to do whatever versus a life where everything is predestined, but in this case, it's a way to protect you. It's a form of loving you, even though you're basically a prisoner. Because isn't that what predestination is? Isn't it a form of prison if an all-knowing God is basically just calling all the shots and there's no surprises in your life? The script is already written.
Right. Everything you've just described is why I do think it's a cult. Because I don't think what you're saying doesn't resonate with my feelings or knowledge or faith in God at all. Like, I think God knows everything, every possibility that's out there, but I think he gives us, and we just have wills of our own. I mean, we exercise them every day. It's not like everything is pre-planned, I don't think.
Can we talk about this in terms of being a literal interpretation, if we wanted to go that far, that Marlon is Judas and Meryl is Mary Magdalene?
Wow. I mean, we could. I just think it breaks down at a certain point. Like, it's not that what you're saying.
Well, it's messy.
Yeah.
It's not clear cut.
Yeah.
And most depictions of man with God and God with man are loving and empathetic. Whereas this is
This is a very like vindictive portrayal of like
of an omniscient
yeah,
being.
because if you say like, oh, you're in a prison, but it's for your own good, it's for your safety. Like,
But isn't that what
that to
life
me-
is in some degree?
No. What are you even talking about?
Somebody who has a sucky job, and it's like, well, it's like, hey, it could be worse, right? It could be worse.
Okay, if somebody has a sucky job and their only response is to blame God or everything outside of themselves, I just don't have a ton of like respect for that, because we do have a lot of choices. Now, are there things that happen to us outside of our control? Yes. Are there circumstances we find ourselves in? They're like, dang, like I didn't plan for that. Like that was crazy. That was completely out of left field. Of course. But like if somebody is like, okay, here I am in this crappy cubicle and I don't want to be in it, there are so many steps that someone can take to make their way out of that situation. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be maybe for some people 2 steps and for other people like 25 steps? Yes. Nothing is like fair about this situation. All I'm saying is that we can't just be like, well, here I am in this crappy life and that's it. Like, no, like we have so many choices every day, every year,
Truman does too. He just can't leave the building. Look, if you had found out your whole life,
Oh my God.
there are cameras everywhere, I'm an actor, it's all been a facade. I mean, would you really feel like, on the one hand, it's like, oh, that sucks that you've all been lying to me, but like, this wasn't too bad,
No,
right?
literally, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like, what did they see that I thought I was like by myself?
Wouldn't you? There's that.
Were you there in the bathroom with me? Were you like
Oh, of
there
course,
when
there's
I was
cameras
taking
everywhere.
a shower?
Everywhere.
Like, when I like had that, bad burrito? Like what?
Yeah, it's on the tape. We could watch the tape together from the greatest hits. Planet Julia, the greatest hits.
Were you there when I was like laid out with like COVID for 5 days? Like what?
Exactly. I mean, the thing, like the worst thing about being on the Truman Show is that you're stuck. The best thing about being on the Truman Show is that you're on the Truman Show. If this movie was about a guy who never knew and never had aspirations of escaping this world, I mean,
I feel like that it would have been like kind of boring then.
well, then it'd be like watching the Truman Show. It'd be like being one of those people watching the TV show, because otherwise, that's what we're talking about. The conflict came from the contrivances that they create for him, because otherwise, yeah, I mean, like, look, for the first 30 or so years, it's about somebody growing up in this contrived world. It becomes more dramatic when he figures things out and tries to escape. But really, prior to that, I mean, this was, people like, free Truman, but really it's like,
okay,
he's got a pretty great life.
So,
he's been in there in the 80s and 90s. Like, there's terrible things that are going on in this world. He's right. There's no war in this world.
No, I understand what you're saying. But like, yeah, like before when he didn't know and he was just going along and whatever, was fine with it because he didn't know. Okay, that's one thing. But once he knew and all of the forces were working against him to gaslight him every step of the way, and the propaganda machine started flowing, you know what I mean? Like, that's, I think, when you have the problem of the cult-like existence, so.
I want to see if there's an extension of this, because I don't want to touch a frame of this movie, but if I could change the ending, I would want to see this show go on and just call it Marlin. And it's just Marlin. And they try to look, we lost everything. Let's just, okay, we got our number 2 actor.
Okay, does Marlon still live in Seaside?
Yeah, but he's still living in this world, and they just try to make it a real show, and it's like, okay, will people be interested if we just okay, Marlon, this is the episode where Marlon goes to the dentist, and it doesn't go so well, ha ha ha. Maybe they add a laugh track. They try to do a spin-off with just Marlon.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
gonna see
I don't
that.
think anybody would watch that.
No, it'd be like Joey, right, from Friends. It'd be like it's such a bad idea. But no, that's what I want to see. I want to see them like desperately try to recreate the magic of the Truman Show.
Well, okay. But they
'Cause they think they got Frasier, but they got Joey.
Okay, well, there was a show that tried to recreate something similar, that show Jury Duty.
Right.
It's on Freevee if anybody is interested. But so one guy who thinks that he's actually going to be on a documentary about being on a jury. And so everybody else is an actor. He goes to a fake courthouse. Well, he goes to a real courthouse, but it's a fake trial. And he ends up being sequestered and the whole thing. But the whole point of it is to like put him in situations where to see what he's going to do. And at the end, you find out that his nickname is the Hero. And they clearly picked the right guy. Like they did a lot of interviewing and casting to find like the perfect guy for this role. But he ended up just bringing everybody together. Like it was like very uplifting. And when he finally found out, because at one point he was like, everything that is happening is so crazy. I feel like this is like a reality show. So I think on some level he kind of knew it wasn't exactly what he had signed up for, but he was very surprised at the end. But he was only doing this for like maybe a month out of his life, not 38 years. So, and he knew it was going to be on TV. So there's that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, it's very close to the Truman Show, especially because it's about the concept that the main actor is not aware what's going on. And it's not a candid camera kind of thing. It's this idea that, it's creating a faux reality, and he's going through, a scripted set of contrivances. Yeah. And there are people that he's reacting to who are in on the joke. He is not. It's interesting that it's interesting that that show caught on, and it's become quite popular. People have been talking about it,
and it was from the creators of The Office. So
yeah, which is a fake mockumentary in general. So I mean, there's an interconnectedness to this because even though The Office is scripted, but it is meant to look and feel as much like an off the cuff documentary. Yeah. So we are attracted to this idea of reality when clearly it's not. Clearly, there's always like something that you have to have something steering the ship. Because otherwise, then we're just talking about documentary, where and look, there are obviously documentaries that are contrived, but the best documentaries, it's the sense that the camera is just being still on a subject or an idea, and they're discovering things that happen as they happen. The best documentary, in my opinion, is this movie called Harlan County, USA, and it's about a coal mining strike. And initially, it's just about coal mining, and you're seeing how these coal miners doing their thing. This strike happens, violence breaks out, and the documentarian's like, oh my gosh, like this is really happening in front of me. There's like chaos and violence. And so you're seeing it envelop as it really happened. And there's nothing contrived about it. I mean, it just captured history. It was lightning in a bottle. It's amazing when documentaries provide that, because for the most part, documentaries are talking heads. But in this case, like it is like reality television, so to speak, because you're seeing a moment as it actually happened. It's like watching a surveillance camera, but done with art, artfully. It's like on the one hand, like you look at the Truman Show and you go, like, would anybody watch this, especially compared to what reality shows are like today? Like somebody who's telling me, I have never seen, I don't even know what the premise is, but Vanderpump Rules.
Oh no,
and
I can't watch that.
Bret
stuff.
Michaels had a show. Like I hear about some of these shows, like how like insanely sleazy and popular they are. And by the way, like I love TV, but I really detest reality television. You know that. I don't watch reality TV stuff. I watched, I think, the first 3 or 4 seasons of The Bachelor with you, and then finally I'm like, what am I doing? Life is too short. What am I doing watching this? Why do I know who these people are? But but the thing is, like, about the Truman Show, it's like, oh man, the angle that we're watching this guy grow up in real time, I do think that plausibly would pull people in, and I think they would stick with the show, because it's like, well, I've been watching the Truman Show since he was born, so of course I'm not going to give up on this show. So,
would you change the ending?
I've always wanted either him to reconcile with Sylvia or even just a shot of Truman going into a Truman Show store and seeing all the products, looking at the Truman Show action figures, and seeing like the little action figures of him as a little boy in a boat with his dad. Like I wanted that. I wouldn't mind if this movie was 10 minutes longer just to establish what his awakening looks like.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, like the fact that he walks through the door, that is the ending. And I respect that because it's a really strong place to, and the whole point is that he does it. And it is, all kidding aside, like the movie is about someone who escapes from this fake reality. And that is something to celebrate. And the movie is very clear about who the villains and heroes are. I do think that it becomes interesting when you ask, like, what is this film really about? And how can we interpret these things in terms of talking about reality and fantasy, this idea of living, either alone in the world or having a deity watching over us, controlling, manipulating what that is, and what manipulation even is. If Truman was living in a prison, or whether it was this wonderful world that's, that he just no longer found acceptable. So I think there's things about the Truman Show that apply to how we talk about our lives and how we talk about reality TV. This idea of like, is something only authentic if it's reality? Or, can there also be honesty in something that's manipulated, which is the relationship we have with reality and art. So, yeah, I love this film. Andrew Niccol wrote it, and he's also the author of Gattaca, which also asked, it seemed even more pointed and very uncomfortable questions. Gattaca was the film that the teaser poster was children made to order. And it made a lot of people very uncomfortable. But then, of course, the movie comes out, and then the funny thing about that movie was that it was made and they shelved it because they're like, this is way too weird and science fiction. And then Dolly the sheep happens. And they're like, oh, actually, no, this is perfect. Let's put this out right now. Because suddenly the movie caught up with what was going on. And this idea, because I haven't seen it in a while, but I believe the opening scene is two parents in a doctor's office going like, hey, we want her eyes blue. We want her to be a Rhodes Scholar. We want her to go to Julie.
Now what
which
people...
is, now it's like, that's not science fiction anymore, So yeah, Andrew Niccol, like I don't think all of his stuff works. He did a movie with Justin Timberlake and Amanda Seyfried. It was called In Time. Cool idea and visually great, but I don't think it works. But he is, I think his best work, and I'd certainly consider Gattaca and the Truman Show to be the tippity top. I mean, he's got that Rod Serling thing going on where he's, it's great science fiction, but he's also asking some very direct and uncomfortable questions about what it means to be alive. Yeah.
So what, 4 stars for you?
Yes. Yeah, I think it's, I mean, I love that this was a summer movie. I'll say really quickly, it had this really weird birth because they made the film, and this is Peter Weir, by the way, great Australian director, long list of credits. His most famous American credits, of course, are Dead Poets Society and what's the other one that he's so well known for? I'm blanking. But but Weir, critically acclaimed, and he made this movie, and Carrie made it as a labor of love, and the studio waffled in terms of releasing it. This famously was a movie where they kept pushing it back because it was supposed to come out I think like a year and a half earlier, but they're like, no, like, Liar Liar just came out. The timing isn't right. We don't want it opening up after a typical Jim Carrey movie, so they kept pushing it back. And famously, they would have it. That's it. Witness, another movie about. He also directed Witness, which is also about living in a religious community. How about that? So Paramount famously, like they kept screening the movie on the lot because they loved it so much. Everybody was saying like, "Have you seen this Jim Carrey movie? This movie is amazing." But everyone's going, "How the heck do we promote it?" And this is weird because. They made a trailer for it where everything was out in the open. Like, okay, this is about a guy who doesn't realize that his life is a TV show. Roger Ebert, I think it was his pick for Best Picture of the Year. No, it was one of them. It made his 10 best list, and Roger Ebert was a big fan of this movie, but he went after this film. He's like, he went after the studio. He's like, how dare they reveal the secret of the movies in the trailer and the poster? But from the opening scene,
Yeah.
they make it clear. So I don't know. I never thought Roger Ebert's anger was justified, because I don't think you look at this movie for the first 30 minutes and go like, oh, it's a metaphor. You know, he's
right
thinking
away.
about his life in terms of what he was on TV. No, I mean, if anything, you don't know the scope of it. You don't know the scale of it. You're not sure who Ed Harris is. You're not sure what all the reaction shots are. But no, I mean, I think from the opening, I mean, plus it's the Truman Show starring Truman Burbank, the opening of the movie is meant to be the opening of the TV show, the opening credits. So no, I thought that was kind of an odd thing to complain about, because it's right there.
Maybe Truman and Sylvia go and live with Harrison Ford in the movie Witness, and that's how
Well, they live in an Amish community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's gone at the end of that movie, though. He leaves.
Well,
he leaves because he's a man of
You
violence.
could like merge those two worlds together.
Do you think Truman and Sylvia are like lifting barns, like going to barn raising?
I don't know. Maybe.
They're like besties with Kelly McGillis and Alexander Goodonoff's characters.
Yeah.
That's a nice idea. This film was a surprise blockbuster because nobody quite knew if it was going to work or not. And thankfully, it was critically acclaimed. Audiences loved it. It was a surprise hit in the summer of '98. And I love this movie. It's 4 stars for me.
All right. I think 4 stars for me too.
Cool.
Loved it. And I think we covered everything.
I hope so.
All right. Well, that does it for our conversation on The Truman Show.
Hey, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.